Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you. It is 9 o'clock. It's Tuesday night. Where else would you rather be as a Steelers fan? And with me, as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich. Rich, you don't look very happy, but how are you doing tonight?
I'm here.
Poor Rich. I'm going to bring it up just because I can.
I mean,
was telling me about something right before we went on air. Poor Rich. What is it, Rich? What was that today? You got notified of this, or was it yesterday?
Yes, today.
Okay. Well, don't leave us all in suspense.
I have jury duty,
but not just jury duty.
Not just any jury duty. It would be fine if jury duty was right here at District or Circuit Court here in Oakland, 2 miles away. But no, U.S. District Court jury duty in Baltimore. So
I mean,
throw in the fact that jury
enough
duty
for me,
and I have to go to Baltimore. I'll be sure to wear all my Steelers gear when I go for it.
Yes,
I'll wear my SCN shirt, my Steelers. I'll wear all that gear and take what forward. Maybe they'll be like, "Yeah, we don't want that guy. He's a Steeler fan."
Yeah, and not only that, it could be any week over a month. You have to call on Friday afternoon to find out about Monday, right? Or Friday evening, right? You have to wait for like
anytime on. Yep.
Yeah.
And then be like, "Yo," they're like, if they have a possible case, then it's come in Monday to see if you get chosen. Then if you get chosen, then who knows what goes on, because you go right. Oh, I just don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, because then if you get chosen, then you will not be appearing on the Scho Bro Show.
Yeah, I can take my laptop. I'll show up from who knows where.
You'll be sequestered.
No, you ready for the worst part? This is the worst part. This couldn't have happened in January or February or no, April. You know what April is, right?
Fishing.
Prime fishing. That is like prime fishing.
Yeah.
And okay.
Yeah.
I'm done with that. Let's at least try to make me a little happier and talk about the Steelers.
Yeah. That'll be me any happy or not. Hey, I was selected for jury duty once, for local jury duty, not state. And I had to call in every day after 6 o'clock. I never even had to go to the building. It was 1 week that was me. I wasn't used the whole week. So for those of you that were hearing some good stories here in the live chat, let's see. We even had Steeler Chick 46 had jury duty several years ago and ended up being the 4-person and found the person guilty. So so there's it's. Hey, you should be honored to be a part of our special justice. I know. Now, what stinks is you're about as far away from Baltimore in this state as you can get. For you to get to Baltimore is almost the same as me going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So
it's a haul. Mm-hmm. So I haven't even, if I have to get down, I haven't even begun to think about how I'm going to do it. They would go stay at Renee's Brothers in Frederick or something. And
I was going to say, or if you don't need to be as close, you could always stay here. You could go knock on Jefferson's door. Speaking of Jefferson, we have a little bit of more non-Steelers news. I know we have to get there because we have to. Nope, don't worry. I got it. Don't worry. I got it, Rich. I know what you're thinking because we've got it. Today's a very special day because now one Jefferson Hartman can say,
"I'm a man. I'm 40.
One. Okay. In case you missed that, he can now say,
"I'm a man. I'm 40.
One. Okay. Yeah. That was a year ago. We did that for Jeff. Guess what? Today is Jeff's birthday. So we had to shout out there to one Jefferson Bartholomew Hartman and say, happy birthday, sir. So just had to put that out there.
This came
Is that
up
what you're looking for?
This came up. No, actually, I was going to play the other one.
The one that I made for his wife?
Yes.
Okay. I gotta let everyone know. when Jeff's wife had her birthday last year, I made this video.
I'm a woman. I'm 40.
There you go. That's what we did last year.
Right.
So.
This question came up here at my house then after I decided that, I've given, Jefferson Bartholomew Hartman. Do we even know what his real middle name is? I gave him the Bartholomew, because
You know what? I think I've heard it, but I don't remember. It's just Bartholomew.
Okay, just was wondering.
Gotcha. So, yeah, but happy birthday, Jeff. Let's talk Steelers. Okay. Not a lot of news to talk about, Rich. Not a lot, but just I'm really glad that in case you missed it, we had a breaking news podcast earlier today. I'm pretty sure we also had it out. It wasn't live, but we have it on our YouTube channel. I know it's on our audio channel for Steel Curd Network. Either way, you can get it. It was Jeff and Brian hearing from our source that the information was about the quarterback position. Now, this weekend, I wrote an article. I don't know if you got to check it out or not, Rich, but it was how the offseason is just getting going, and I'm already exhausted. I'm exhausted by
Did not read that, but I was thinking it today.
I'm exhausted, and I mean, what's great is putting this out at steelcurdnetwork.com. Man, what a place to be. What a community. Because so much – this has come up in several articles lately, and they're coming in and like the people that are there and are commenting are so grateful. They're like, this is unlike any other Steelers site, maybe because we haven't been out there to the masses yet, but you're not getting the toxic takes, the trolling, the other things that you get, the arguments, the extremism that you get other places. And so if you haven't checked it out, check it out. But I'll say this, don't bring it. We don't, people there, they like it really how it is. And the reason I say it's exhausting is like, I quoted something that I saw. This is just one example. And it's that, it was talking about Steelers quarterbacks, and Jeremy Betts on X had made a list of different tiers of quarterbacks now we thought the Steelers would do. And I'm like, that's fine. That's cool. But like in some of the comments they were saying, and one of them was like, if the Steelers go in with number blank through blank, they're simply just not interested in winning. Rich, have the Pittsburgh Steelers ever just not been interested in winning?
Not in my lifetime.
Not in your lifetime and not in mine. And I'm just like, really? You think that is the epitome of the Steelers just not interested in winning? Things like that. Those are the kind of things that exhaust me because it's not really how it is. I mean, come on. You might not like those other options. Too bad. Okay? You know what? If you don't like them, then don't tune in on Sundays at 1 p.m. when God intended NFL football to be played. Just don't do it. Just don't. But guess what? I don't believe it's going to happen for a second. Guess what? I'm going to tune in. I really am. But to go along with that, of what the breaking news was today, I don't know if you get to check that out. That was also an article at steelcurdnetwork.com. And there was more comments like that like, thank you all for not doing all the clickbaity. Every second somebody links a possible player at any position, particularly quarterback, to the Steelers. It's got to be an article that goes out. That's not what we're doing. What our insider has said is that, yes, the Steelers are keeping their options open. That would be foolish to not. But there are certain things that they're not going to do. And there were two specific names that were out there, okay? One, put it to bed, Justin Fields. Okay? The Steelers aren't going to give up the draft capital needed to get someone on a one-year rental unless they're going to have to pay them a huge contract for a fifth-year option, which is the quarterback value, which is at least $22 million, I think. All right? So there's that it just doesn't make sense for the Steelers to make a move. If you're going to make a move like that, You need to have it happen to where it gives you vast improvement. And there's too many question marks there. And the other one's Kirk Cousins, because the money just doesn't make sense, especially coming off the surgery. It just doesn't make sense. So while the Steelers are keeping options on all options open, it doesn't mean that they're just going to do a bad option. Some of those options we've already been told, yeah, they're not. I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible thing with the Justin Fields, but not currently how it sits. Not for anything, for a day 1 or day 2 pick and having to worry about that 5th-year option, everything. It just doesn't make sense. Now, if the Bears are going to give them away, take another fleecing in a trade from the Steelers, that might change things a little bit, because you just don't want to give up the capital for someone that you're coming in. And honestly, let's go to where people have been twisting some other things. Did you see the Jerry Dulac thing? I took a snapshot of it and put it in the Slack channel this weekend with the quarterback. And man, some people have twisted this. Even on FFSN, Breakfast with Ben's, his Madden Monday. I don't miss a Madden Monday, but they're talking about the Dulac report, and then they're taking it to a level of what wasn't said. They took it to a level of they're not bringing in any competition for Kenny Pickett. That's not what Dulac said. Dulac said they're not going to bring in somebody else that's being promised they're going to start. There's a difference there. There's a difference.
Anything that comes in will be for competition.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm exhausted because every 2 minutes it seems like it's another name. If there's somebody, today you see, what was it? The Detroit Lions released a starting safety. I'm just waiting for everyone saying, they're coming to Pittsburgh. Just every single name that's out there. That's why I'm exhausted. I'm ready for free agency to get going. How about you?
I'm just interested to see how many quarterbacks the Steelers can end up with on their roster. Because
I know. I mean, they're odds on favorite. 6 different guys, I think.
Right. So it's like, if they're the odds on favorite for 6 guys, we're going to carry 7 quarterbacks on the team. I'm like,
yeah. So, and I said that in my article. I'm like, all these quarterbacks that are favored. I'm like, you want to know why? It's because the national media know that Steelers fans will react, and or for those setting lines, they'll put money on it.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah. So it is what it is. But other than that, Chuks Okorafor was finally officially released today. He hadn't gone through the transaction wire yet. That happened today. But other than that, we don't really have much going on, do we, Rich?
Nope. That was the only thing I saw today was that with Chuks.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the quarterbacks, which we're not getting into yet today, we're going very closely. We're going cornerback. We're going to talk about some cornerbacks. But when it comes to quarterback, there's just obviously the Steelers are going to do something because they only have one on the roster. And Rich is still exhausted by it. So we're holding that one. We're holding that position off a little bit to really dive into for a whole show. But that was the news today. If you didn't check out either the article or the podcast, go back and check that out. There's some good information there. But it's basically saying, hey, options are on the table, but those 2 options, those don't make sense. They really don't. So, and if you want a little bit more on quarterback stuff, I got some of that coming up on StatGeek Thursday morning. Rich, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, nice and early, because we want to spend more time talking about cornerbacks. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you're with us here, YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever it's called, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us in the audio, stick around. We'll be right back after these messages. All right, Steelers fans, because we didn't have a ton of news, although we still managed to talk about stuff for a little while, we're going to dive into a position on the defense that I think is one that has an awful lot to talk about. And that's the cornerback position. Before we dive in and look at who the Steelers still have, who's free agents, things of that nature. Now, I'm not talking about outside free agents. I'm talking about who from the Steelers last year are set to become free agents. I think the Steelers made a very important, I guess you could say, discovery, or took a really big step at the cornerback position last year. You agree with that?
There's a word I'm looking for. I'm like you. I'm sitting there looking.
Yeah.
The Steelers. What I want to. They gained some footing.
Yeah. They know what they're building around when it comes to cornerback. It's kind of like when you're talking about, you with the offense, what do you generally try to do? Build around your quarterback or something of that nature, or, having a key piece. Everything that the Steelers do at cornerback now, in my opinion, is merely to support Joey Porter Jr. With Joey Porter Jr. being the guy that can follow the best receiver, he made everybody on the team better last year once he started doing that. And I know some people, don't like to talk about this name. I'm going to bring it up because we're going to eventually. I'm going to bring up somebody like Levi Wallace. Levi Wallace was struggling last year. Wouldn't you say that's a bit of an understatement?
A little bit early on.
It was not good. But so interesting because I know some people are like, I had some disagreements with Jeremy Betts, and he's like, put in one of these young guys. It can't be worse. I'm like, it can be worse. I mean, Levi Wallace was not giving up a touchdown on every pass. He was not. Could you get that from other guys? Yeah. I mean, my goodness. Well, don't even get me started on James Pierre and how that went down this year. We saw that with Ahkello Witherspoon when he first joined the Steelers. Yikes. Okay. But somebody like a Levi Wallace last year, what was really interesting with him is he played much better the second half of the season. And you're like, oh, that's because he got benched for Joey Porter Jr. Well, kind of. But he also didn't when Patrick Peterson had to move to safety. He was then the starter again. And his best games, I think, especially grouped together, were finishing out the end of the season. Why was that? Because the other team simply couldn't say, "Oh, we know where Levi Wallace is going to be. We don't think he can guard our best receiver, so we're going to move our best receiver to where he is and make him have to defend him." Couldn't do that anymore because that best receiver was being followed by Joey Porter Jr. And it actually helped Levi Wallace. Now, I'm not saying that I want Levi Wallace to be that other cornerback next year. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that whatever the Steelers are doing at corner this year, that's going to benefit that other player.
Yes. Right. I mean, you can go back and look at when, when the Jets had Revis Island. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason, that defense did so well then was because you're asking your second corner to never have to cover a number one.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Because if they could really cover a number one good, do really well at that, they wouldn't be, mm-hmm. they'd be your number one corner.
Yes.
So, to have a guy that could, I'll use the term, that can lock down or, really follow a true number one receiver around on the field just makes the rest of your secondary better. And that's what Joey Porter Jr. does for the Steelers.
Yes. So, and we'll get more into Levi Wallace because when we list stuff here shortly. I was just using him as an example of how Joey Porter Jr. being able to do that can benefit other people in the team. Now, if the Steelers can find another corner to go with Joey Porter Jr., guess what? He might not have to follow people around, depending on how this plays out come September of 2024. But regardless, you know that he can. The only question is, are you going to have to? So keep that in mind. Just because he did it at the end of this year, if the Steelers have another good option at cornerback, which we're going to get to shortly, that might mean that Joey Porter doesn't have to do that anymore. All right, which isn't a bad thing. But if it makes the defense better, then I want him to keep doing it. And last year, It definitely made the defense better. All right, so let's talk about players from the Steelers at cornerback last year. You've got Joey Porter Jr. He's kind of a tier above everybody else. Okay. You've got Patrick Peterson. Rich, do you keep Patrick Peterson, or do you personally right now have Patrick Peterson on your list of cornerbacks, or would you have him somewhere else?
I'm 100% sure I have him on the roster.
That's true too. We were going to get there, but right now he is on the roster.
Correct.
So that's what I'm saying, because that was going to be my next question. Okay, further down the road, is he even going to be there? But right now he is. Would you group him into cornerbacks, or would you not?
Yeah, probably would.
Yeah, I would give him that infamous DB and just call him a defensive back, to where, honestly, I don't know exactly how he would fit in with the Steelers. I think he's smart enough, wily enough that they would find a way of exactly how they want to do him. Whether it's a safety corner hybrid thing is part of your, sub packages. I don't know. That's a pretty hefty price tag that they have right now with him.
Yeah, which is why I really, in the end, don't know that he's going to be on the roster. That'll start to shape up as we see what happens in free agency and the draft as to whether that's going to continue or not. Not sure.
Here's the next question with Patrick Peterson. Do you feel right now that he is a viable option to be CB2? The other starter across from Joey Porter Jr.
He could be, but it's not the way I want to roll into next year.
Yeah.
Me personally says I think we could do better.
Yes, I do. I'm going to say this because we're going to get to how we could shape the rest of this room. To me, if the Steelers move on from Patrick Peterson, that to me would be an indication that they plan on looking at the other safety position in free agency. If they don't move on from Patrick Peterson, to me, that tells me that the Steelers would be in line for another high draft pick at the position. Because Patrick Peterson, just like he did last year, where you're like, oh, he's kind of the placeholder for Joey Porter Jr. He kind of wasn't, because he was better than Levi Wallace. That's why he was the other guy then too. But he could be a placeholder if the Steelers go with a cornerback in one of their first couple picks this year, that you could go with Patrick Peterson early on until, kind of like you did with Joey, because the Steelers, they don't want their rookies that start 17 games because they're not ready. They don't feel that they're used to that unless they have to have them because they don't really have any options. In other words, Kendrick Green, Dan Moore, when they were rookies. Okay. They try not to. It doesn't always work out that way, but they try not to. That's what they do. Whether you agree with it or not, it's just kind of how it works. Could you get behind that statement when it comes to Patrick Peterson?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah. So if the Steelers release Patrick Peterson to use some of that money to sign another cornerback in free agency that is younger and faster and high, not better than what Patrick Peterson was, at the height of his career, but better than what Patrick Peterson is at this point of his career.
Yes.
So to me, they're like, for people that are saying, oh, you got to cut Peterson. To me, you're doing it if you're signing another quality, higher quality cornerback out there.
Which is why there's no rush to do it right now. Which is why
Exactly.
he's still currently on the roster.
Because I think I'm bringing it up because there's several players on the Steelers that have roster bonuses that kick in early in the league year. It's a couple days into the league year. Patrick Peterson is one of them. It's $3 million if he's on the roster. It's conflicting reports. When I did this article before, and between Over the Cap and Spot Rack, neither of them had the same date for any of the players in the Steelers. They all had a different date, but it's generally around the third day of the league year. But Patrick Peterson right now is almost a $10 million cap hit, but he's going to be almost $3 million no matter what in dead money. The thing is you have that $6.85 million in base salary. Now, if the Steelers decided they wanted to, let's add another year to his salary. We're not paying him any more this year than we would have, but we can split some of that over and, save, I'll say roughly $3 million. It would probably be a little bit less. That wouldn't shock me either, but I think it would also give an indication of what they plan on doing at the position because we still haven't gone through everybody. Levi Wallace is a free agent. Chandon Sullivan is a free agent, or set to be a free agent, I guess you should say. Who the Steelers have, other than Joey Porter Jr. and Patrick Peterson, is guys that don't have starts under them. Oh, sorry. James Pierre, another one who's set to become a free agent. So you've got Corey Trice Jr. that got hurt in the first padded practice of training camp.
I know that's the one that killed me because that's the guy I wanted to see this year.
Yes.
Because to me, I think would have been nice to have learned from having him around as to, okay, what do the Steelers need to do at this position moving forward? Not getting to see him, I don't have as much information as I'd like.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so many people are like, oh, Corey. If you go into this season with Corey Trice, well, I'm going to add the next one, Darius Rush. He's under contract. He's got another year with the Steelers before he would then be an exclusive rights free agent, I think, the following year. With both of those guys thinking that they are the answer, you're in huge trouble.
Yep.
I don't even think the Steelers would have done that in 2021 when they were hurting so bad. Now, if one of those two guys works out and can see snaps on the field, that's fantastic. And these guys are going to be in camp and they're going to be in the hunt for bottom of the depth chart guys, unless they can really move up the depth chart. But for their best path is to see if they can squeeze onto the 53 or if not, even the practice squad. The fear now with Corey Trice is when you're talking about a significant knee injury, it's not just will he be back next year, it's will he ever be the same. So what we thought the Steelers could have had in Corey Trice might not ever happen simply because he might only ever get back to be 80% of what he was. Now, hopefully he can make a full recovery. I don't know. We don't have those reports, but that's just one of those things to keep in mind. But it's nice that you have a couple of those wild cards. There's another one there. There's another one you can't forget about. Okay. Who signed a futures contract with the Steelers. And that's Luke Marcoux. Okay. To me, those are the three young guys that if you could get one of them to fill one of the cornerback roles, but either like CB3 or CB4, because the Steelers are generally going to keep 4 outside of the nickel cornerback. They're generally going to keep 5. James Pierre last year was the CB4. Okay. If one of these guys can give you better play than that, that's fine. Yep. I said in the past, it wouldn't shock me if the Steelers brought back Levi Wallace. Now, when I say that, I don't mean for him to be CB2. I mean for him to be CB4. I mean for him to take James Pierre's spots, not Patrick Peterson's spot, because honestly, if you have Levi Wallace at CB4, that is an upgrade over last year, because last year he was CB2 and then CB3. If he's still around, but further down the depth chart, that's not a terrible thing. I just don't know that he's really suited for that with everything else. It's probably not happening. But my point was, you're not running it back to thinking they're going to be in the same spot. And even if somebody, let's throw Chan and Sullivan out there as well. Reports are Sullivan and the Steelers are both interested. It's not like he blew anyone out of the water at nickel, but I don't think he was that bad as the season went on. Had some struggles early on. But it sounds like there's an awful lot of names for a few spots, but none of which you should bank on being towards the top.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So
someone could surprise and work their way to the top, but but they're not there now.
I mean, if somebody like a Darius Rush or a Corey Trice or Luke Barku pops in camp and they're your CB3 and they're working it in sub packages, that's great news.
Yeah.
But you can't go into training camp thinking that those are your options, because it might be that none of them work out. So, do you think this? Let's talk nickel real quick. Do you think the Steelers bring back Chan and Sullivan? Last year, I'm pretty sure it was a veteran salary benefit contract.
Well, we'll go to my favorite saying. I'm not against it if the price is right.
And they could bring him back on a veteran salary benefit contract and still end up finding that they can upgrade it.
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal.
Nope.
Yeah. So there you go. Do you think the Steelers bring back Levi Wallace?
I would rather see them bring him back versus James Pierre, or
Mm-hmm. I know Pierre brings the special teams, but you're hoping one of those other three guys could do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
just so you know, someone said we're forgetting Trent Thompson. He's a safety.
Yeah.
Put that out there.
We're
only doing corners. We're not doing the entire secondary.
I could see the Steelers bringing Levi Wallace back. I could see I could see him leaving. It's a flip a coin kind of situation. I would say with some of their free agent corners, I expect there to be one back.
Yeah.
Which one that ends up being could depend on free agent negotiations.
Yes. And I think Levi Wallace would be the kind of player that if he comes back to the Steelers, it's in May or June when he's not anywhere else and comes back for the minimum to see if he can make a spot because no one else picks him up. Think about Mason Rudolph last year at quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. That kind of situation. That's really the only way I see him back, because you don't want to pay him anything significant, because you don't want him in a significant role. James Pierre was another one you're saying. I would be surprised if James Pierre isn't back just to at least fight for a spot. Just not sure that he'll win one.
Right. He could end up back in camp and could make the team and might be cut.
Yeah. So the question is, what should the Steelers do? The Steelers have more work to do at cornerback. They did a great job finding Joey Porter. They might have many of the names around again that they had last year, but they in no way should be content rolling into next year with the same unit they had last year, right?
Correct.
So what are you looking for the Steelers?
I'm not even sure the Steelers have made up their mind in terms of how they want to do it. In meaning, the Steelers, I talk about this almost every postseason. The Steelers don't necessarily go into the offseason saying, this is what we're going to do. The Steelers, I think, go into the offseason say, these are our needs. So they will first, if getting some upgrade at corner is determined to be a need, which I think it will be, then for the Steelers, it comes down to them saying, okay, well, let's explore. What are some of our options in free agency? And they'll kind of have their list of what they would potentially look for in free agency. And if it works out there, then it works out there. And that if it doesn't work out there, they've already sat down and said, okay, if it doesn't work out in free agency, what would we do come draft?
Yes.
What I expect that if it comes over the draft, I do not expect to see the Steelers take a safety within. I'm sorry, I'm going to go ahead and call it
safety
round
corner.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Take a corner in round one. Yes, I'm going to call it round one because Joey Porter Jr. was the 31st pick.
32nd, but yeah.
Yeah. That it wouldn't be there. They may not identify someone that would fall that high in the draft, but I would expect then the Steelers would say, well, here's a group of guys that if we decided to draft somebody in the second round, we'd look at these guys. If it was the third round, we'd look at these guys. So it's one of those where we're going to get an idea. If we haven't seen the Steelers do much of anything at the corner prior to the draft, then you've got to expect that something's probably going to happen in the draft. Completely
agree. I did a corner. It was a cornerback when I do mock draft Mondays, every Monday at SteelCurtainNetwork.com. I highlight a mock draft that has someone going to the Steelers. I highlight a draft. I think this is my fourth year doing it. And I've never, the whole point is to not repeat anybody. And then what do? We do leading up like the Tuesday before the draft, we go through all my mock draft Monday articles and say, all right, do we think it could be this person, this person? We did it last year. Broderick Jones was the first one I did last year and everything. So that's always fun to do. But this was the second time I had a cornerback doing mock draft Monday so far. And to me, I think cornerback could be a position right now that the Steelers take in the first round. But free agency would change everything. Everything.
Well, yeah, because you have to think it
could.
For the Steelers to take a corner in the first round of the draft, then they would have to do some serious work at other positions via free agency.
Yes. And I don't think they're going to address tackle in free agency. It's too expensive. So I expect the Steelers to take another tackle in the first 2 days of the draft.
Yeah. I agree. So,
and some people say corner can be too expensive. It can be. But there's a lot more different. Let's just say this. The drop off from the very top tackles to the other ones that you can afford, you see a serious drop off in play. There's not as big a drop off in cornerback to me, from the most expensive guys to the next tier guys. They're still adequate cornerbacks. When you get to second tier tackles, sometimes you're like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So to me, corner, and I think the Steelers are going to sign a cornerback in free agency. because chances are, if nothing else, they're going to sign James Pierre, which would technically be a free agency signing. Because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're going to sign a cornerback in free agency. The question is, how big they going? If the Steelers decide, you know what, we're doing okay with a lot of positions, and we think we can do it through the draft, we're going to really focus on one, and we're going to go for it. Corner is what I would love for them to do more than anything. I know some people will be like, quarterback. You'll find out more from me on Stat Geek on Thursday why I don't think that's the smart move, because the Steelers could have an added, potential options that aren't breaking the bank for a year or two. But cornerback, that's one of those, just for some reason, the way it's playing out, I feel like that's one that if they felt like they were going to have a go big or go home moment under Omar Khan in free agency, that would be a position this year to do it at. I'm not saying they will, but I could see it. I could see it as a possibility.
I don't know. Bring on the free agency period. I want to see what the con man can do in year 2.
Yeah. Because my thing is, you could save. I mean, even there's the cornerback from the Bears that the Steelers almost got at the trade deadline. He's a big name guy that's going to be out there. Johnson, I think it is. I know it's a J. His first name and last name both start with a J. And I've mentioned him before, but I can't remember. He could be franchise tag. I don't know. Ladarius Sneed from the Chiefs. He could be franchise tag, or he could get re-signed. These guys might not hit the open market, but those are a couple guys coming off of rookie deals that could see some pretty big money out there. That the Steelers could go out there and make a splash. That's not typically the way Steelers do things, but think about it. I remember several years ago the Steelers making their biggest free agent contract signing ever. And it was cornerback Steven Nelson.
Yep.
That they spent the money on a cornerback. I could see them doing that this year, especially if you're saying, well, once they sign them, once they do that, then you got to think, we're not going to need, we could save another $6.75 million from Patrick Peterson. We signed this corner for 3 years. We're going to have, year one's low, and it might only be what the Peterson savings would be, something like that. And then you see the big jump in future years. But I have a feeling, or maybe they go mid-level. But if they go mid-level, then I still think you got the opportunity to go with it at the drafts. Don't you think?
Yeah.
So I think cornerback is one of the most intriguing positions for the Steelers this offseason. Let me reemphasize it. I think cornerback is one of the most intriguing positions for the Steelers this offseason because of what they could do. And some, for people that think the Steelers are going to go free agent quarterback, they're just so darned expensive. Unless you get one of those special cases with Russell Wilson. We'll talk about that another time. Where he might not play for much because he doesn't want to save any money for the Broncos. Because every dollar he makes from somebody else is one less that the Broncos have to pay him. So he wouldn't want to do that. This is get your popcorn ready.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Popcorn.
Yeah. So
extra butter.
Yeah. You know what? I might have to go make some popcorn after we're done this show. Okay. With plenty of butter. Air popcorn with real butter. That's the most healthy popcorn I can make, people. All right. Anything else you want to say about cornerback here to kind of tie this up? But not counting our big question we'll have at the end.
No, just, this. No, there's going to be a lot go on with the number of guys Steelers have that technically will be free agents. Decisions with Patrick Peterson. You've got some young guys still trying to figure out what you got. The needle's going to move in the cornerback room. The question is just is going to be how much and when.
Yeah. So, one last thing I want to say about it is, let's say the Steelers do go out and do a big cornerback signing this offseason. And let's say it's at the expense of Patrick Peterson, that then they have to release him because of that. Then I think you're going to see a low salary Levi Wallace-esque type player that's going to be there as the third guy, backup, ready for injury,
Yep.
sub package, somebody like that has NFL experience, and that's why I say it would be somebody like a Levi Wallace, because, has the experience, but isn't going to be your top guy. It's going to be that type of player that would then be your third guy. I don't know that the Steelers go that big that they need to do another higher draft pick, because it would be tougher for them to see the field. It's all going to shape up, and I can't wait for it. Hey, we're going to take another quick break so we can come back, do our 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk and our big question. So stick around. We'll be right back. All right, Steelers fans, we are back. We're getting ready to do our 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk. This is fun. This was suggested to me. I can't remember who. I don't even remember if it was even for the show, but it was a question. And honestly, I think Rich and I each will probably know the answer. So this is almost as much as sharing about it. And I actually want to kind of follow along and see what you all say in the live chat. Okay. So, Rich, 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk. Here's the subject. What was your first vehicle, and what was your most favorite vehicle that you've ever had? All right.
Dude, I mean, I've only had 3 ever.
Yeah.
Which is less than you, I think.
Yeah, well, but honestly, if you do things the way I did it, then you would have more, because we don't have a car that's one's my wife's and one is mine. It's just our vehicles. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yours is a little bit different the way you do it.
We've always been separate. So,
yeah.
All right, my first vehicle was a 1992 Chevy Cavalier.
What color was it?
It was Maui blue. And
2-door,
5-speed. That particular year, the Chevy Cavaliers factory speakers in that car were actually phenomenal. Probably the best set of factory speakers I've ever had. People always thought that I'd upgraded and had speakers in there, but they were not. They were just the factory speakers in that vehicle, and people couldn't believe the sound that came out of them. Best part about that car, I still have the sticker for that car.
Really?
Yes. So would you like to take...
And what happened to it?
I traded it in.
Just it's not like it died or anything else or accident. You just
it was starting to struggle. I started to put more money into it than I wanted to.
How many years you have it?
8.
Okay.
Had it for 8 years. 142,000 miles on it, if I remember correctly. You want to take a guess at the sticker price on a brand new 1992 Chevy Cavalier?
I'm going to say about 10.2.
You're way off.
I'm just guessing.
$6,900.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a brand new one. Mine was very similar, because you're 4 years older than me. Mine was a 1996 Chevy Cavalier. Mine was not as... By then, the style was, there were a lot less sharp edges and a lot more round edges.
Yep.
The difference between your car and my car. My color was cayenne. It was very interesting. In some lights, it looked red. In some lights, it looked orange. It was a 5-speed, 2-door, and just like yours, no AC, tape deck. Mine lasted 6 years and only about 97,000 miles. I did not hit 100K on mine. I remember I got I got an oil change. I had always changed the oil. It was one of the first times I hadn't done it. And when I drove it out of there, it didn't drive right. Here, the ball joint had completely broke, gone haywire. I went in and said, hey, before I pay to get this fixed, look it over. And they found that there was a crack and the head gasket was leaking. So I'm like, I'm not sinking more money into this car. I'm getting another one. Yeah. So that's all the more mine lasted. But so what was your favorite vehicle, Rich?
Is probably
wait a second, Rich.
What?
Yeah, it says, wait, you guys got brand new cars?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Our dad got us brand new cars at high school graduation, as long as we lived up to our end of the deal.
And it was a huge list of stuff.
I would say a huge list of stuff, but
why did you have to graduate in your class for it to work?
I wasn't given anything, but I
was. Yeah,
I probably graduated higher than you, which is
no, you didn't. You didn't have to give a speech, neither did I, but I just missed it. I think we ended up the same. Yeah. So, but we had a lot of stuff we had to do. But that was in order for us to work our own jobs to pay for our own college. And we had to take over the payments eventually anyway for the car. It was starting out. Yep. Yeah. So we didn't have to do all that. Oh, our 5 minutes are up. So guess what? You just get to say, which one was your favorite?
My current one.
Your current one? Your current Jeep Wrangler?
Yeah. So since that car, I've driven 2 Jeep Wranglers since that car. I get many years out of the Jeep Wranglers.
Yeah.
So just coming up on 100,000 on my current Jeep Wrangler.
My favorite vehicle was my next one after that vehicle, and that was my
Nissan
2002 Nissan Frontier King Cab electric blue 4-wheel drive. Loved it, 5-speed. Loved it. Actually had air conditioning, which is good for where I love that truck. I had it for I think 2002. I got rid of it in 2008. So I had 147,000 miles on it. And the reason I had to get rid of it is because the only seats in the back were ones that folded down from the side, and you couldn't put a car seat in it. So I had to trade that puppy in for a freaking minivan, and don't get me started. So
to get a minivan, but
yeah.
So you're talking about yours. Yeah, believe it or not, it was my Cavalier was the car I had the least amount of time at 8 years.
Yeah.
I went 14 with the first Jeep, and the only reason it didn't last longer is because somebody smashed into us and rolled us. And then I've had my current one now almost 10.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's been a while. I'll just say this: when I had to trade in my truck not long after my daughter was born, the minivan that I got, still got it, and my daughter's about ready to be able to drive it. That's what's crazy. So, all right, Rich, that was fun. We had to go over a little bit because we had to answer the rest. I was following along in the live chat, hearing some good stuff. But yeah, I just thought that was a nice, fun question. Hey, if you have any ideas, shoot me a message on X, STL or Superfan Dad, or even you just add at gmail.com. That's my email. If you have any suggestions that you think could be fun for our 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk. Rich, let's get into the big one.
Yep.
Let's get to the big one. All right. Week 1, 2024. I was trying to decide if I was going with week 1 or overall for the season. We'll go week 1. The outside cornerback starting opposite of Joey Porter Jr. is a player A, currently on the roster, B, acquired in free agency, or C, selected in the 2024 NFL Draft? CB2, week 1.
Yep. CB2 week 1 will be B. Acquired via free agency.
You know what? I hate to be so agreeable, but yeah, that's what I hope. That's what I hope. I honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if it's on the roster. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Patrick Peterson, bridging the gap to a high draft pick.
Correct.
But I'm more hopeful that it's that it's a free agent. That's what I would like to see. Lawrence jumped the gun. You're not allowed to answer for me to bring it up until I actually put it out there, which I just did. So if you got to put it back in there for me to bring it up. I am not asking for a name. If you give me a name, I'm not going to bring it up. Okay? I'll just tell you right now. Acton says free agency. Thomas Riley says B, which was free agency as well. Gavin agreed with free agency. Steelers Reaper said free agency. Steelers Chick 46 says draft, but I'm not bringing up names. Jenna, because she'd already put in there before I'd say that. Jenna Alia, I almost messed that one up, says free agent. Steel Dog 88, sorry, skip. Said not free agency, but not shocked if it's draft. My thing is with the draft, I think that's least likely because I don't think it would happen week 1. But I do think they could be the starter for the majority of the season.
Correct.
Okay. I just had to pick which one I was going to go with. Cherry Richard says free agency, but what about a trade? Or trade. Trade goes along with free agency outside the Steelers coming in, but already has NFL experience. So if you want to go there, that could kind of group it together. Gabriel Golden, he says C. He's going with the free agent, or not free. Sorry, with the drafted player. Tate Boys, hey, I didn't realize Tate was in there. He says free agency. Reginald Rivers says B as well, free agency. I told you people, I'm not bringing up names. Jedi 417, love it. Hello, Jedi, nice to see you. Don't remember bringing this one up before. That's why I'm making a big deal out of it. It says free agent. The reason I say that is because I think I've told you the story before, Rich. When my daughter was very young and she was, remember, okay, this is Pop, this is Pa, this is great, this is, names for everything. She goes, Daddy, when I get old and I have kids, what are they going to call you? Without skipping a beat, you know what my answer was? Jedi Master. And my daughter has remembered that. And thinks it's probably going to be okay. Jedi 417 says, finally made a live show. So other than people that are dropping names, that's all we got right now from the responses because they were actually pretty quick to get through them. So with that, you want to say anything else, Rich?
I was
before
just
your final thoughts.
We got a lot of free agency there. I think part of the reason I went with it, and probably you too, is that I just think it's your highest odds.
Yes. Well, now, honestly, not even my highest odds. I think you could pay off the most for next year. I think Omar Khan wants to do something in free agency, and I think cornerback is the best place to do it based on who could be out there. The Steelers
who could be out there,
everything
best
else.
Bang for your buck. Yeah.
So I like that option. Hey, make sure that you're checking out all our shows. We're still bringing them normal time. I'll be honest with you, Thursday, I think we had a slight change to our schedule but with Jeff and I having to deal with basketball season, which is almost over because they canceled some games, they had to reschedule stuff. I think we might actually have our practice a little bit. We might be going between 8:30 and 9 p.m. on Thursday rather than so early. So if you don't see us at that, oh, wow, they'd been going at 6:30, that would be why that we might be back to a regular time based on having an earlier practice. But other than that, same things. And seriously, I'm going to say, check out Steel Curtain Network. Really good community with when it comes to discussing some of these issues and everything going on with the Steelers, and you're not just dealing with constant crazy stuff, name calling. You're not dealing with the Steelers are never going to win again if they ever do this, things of that. That's just not what you're finding there. I mean, it's really a breath of fresh air. Also, check out FFSN as a whole on the podcast side if you're interested in any other sports out there. I mean, Jeff Hartman has a pretty good golf podcast too. It's just a lot of fun. I personally like Pez's Picks, the betting the betting podcast. That's been doing well for me. I did all right with golf this weekend, which was fun. Man, it made watching golf a whole different thing. So make sure you're checking out all those things. And Rich, what will you have to say to close us out here tonight?
Kind of as I was mentioning before, the needle's going to move in the Steelers cornerback room. There's going to be some shuffling around, some changes. To me, it just really boils down to how do things work out for Omar Khan. If he can pull off a really good free agent dealing, it could be done there. Mm-hmm. If it does not, I have a feeling he's like, okay, I've got this secondary guy, or another guy to bring. A guy to bring in could be our CB3 maybe, while Patrick Peterson sits at CB2, but we're going to draft another guy high who may end up CB2 by some point in the year, or it's all going to come together in some way. For me to guess right now how it's all going to come together, man, anybody can guess this. Your guess, good as mine. Okay, but it's going to come together. Oh, I just can't wait for free agency to start. It's just we know things are going to get moving and fall into place, but we've got a few more weeks to wait before we get to begin putting the pieces together. It can be a frustrating time because of as we said earlier, some of what goes on out there. There's talk. I'll just warn folks, don't you can get excited about something that's being reported without totally buying into it. I right now would be very, very careful buying into anything you're hearing. Doesn't mean that it's off the table necessarily, but it's probably not on the table as much as people are making it seem to be. Yep. So just if I had one word of caution to put to people, it would be that. Just take some of these reports of what's going on, take them lightly, because otherwise you set yourself up to get yourself all hyped up over something. And then if it doesn't happen, then you're an angry, bitter Steeler fan. And we don't need angry, bitter Steeler fans. We have enough of those just in general. Okay, we don't need any more. So, hang in there. We're going to make it. I sit here and I think, oh, what are we looking at? Just over 3.5 weeks.
What, the free agency?
Yeah.
See, this week. Yeah, it's just less than 3 weeks. It's when the legal tampering period.
Tampering period. Which then when believe it or not, even when legal tampering starts, you start to see some things go even then. So, we sit here and we think, oh, it's so far away, but it's going to be honest before we know it.
Yeah.
Be here faster than my
jury duty. We brought it back. Circle the whole way around.
I had to circle that all the way around.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go back and listen to the beginning of the show.
That's right. And when it comes...
Not jury duty, when it comes to free agency.
I have two things. When it comes to jury duty, can wait.
Yeah.
When it comes to free agency, can't wait.
can't wait.